There is a reason the deepest transformations in a man's life are born in silence. Not in applause. Not in public declarations. Not in the bright gaze of the world. But in the hidden hours, when the night has lowered its curtain, when the noise of the day has finally withdrawn, and when the outer man appears to be resting while the inner man is being remade. What is formed in darkness acquires a strength that daylight cannot give. You may have spoken often of change. You may have desired it with all your heart. You may have promised yourself that this month would be different, that this year would be different, that this life would finally bend in a better direction. And yet, if you are honest, many mornings have felt strangely familiar. The body rises, but the spirit feels unchanged. The intentions are noble, but the inner climate remains the same. You want to move forward, but something unseen continues to pull you backward into old reactions, old fears, old self-doubt, and old emotional habits. Why does this happen? Because a man cannot construct a new life while still obeying the old commands buried in his subconscious mind. The outer world is only the visible expression of an inner pattern. Your actions, your tone, your level of courage, your capacity for persistence, your relationship with opportunity, even the atmosphere you carry into a room, all of these are shaped first by what your subconscious has accepted as true. If that deeper mind still believes you are weak, delayed, uncertain, unworthy, overlooked, or destined to struggle, then no matter how loudly your conscious mind speaks of success, the old pattern will continue to reproduce itself. The conscious mind may declare, but the subconscious decides. That is why real change rarely begins in conversation. It begins in impression. It begins when the deeper mind receives a new image, a new emotional command, a new concept of identity, and then quietly goes to work reshaping the man from within. And that is why the night is sacred. When the day is alive, the conscious mind is crowded with objections. It argues. It compares. It defends old wounds. It remembers failure. It measures time. It fears embarrassment. It resists what it does not yet understand. But at night, something remarkable occurs. The guards begin to lower. The mental noise softens. The reasoning mind that so often interrupts transformation grows quiet. And behind that quiet, the deeper self becomes more available, more receptive, more obedient to suggestion. Most men waste this hour. They enter sleep burdened with the very thoughts they should have rejected. They fall asleep in resentment. They drift into unconsciousness while replaying humiliation, disappointment, fear, and uncertainty. Then they wonder why tomorrow resembles yesterday. They do not realize they have been giving the subconscious blueprints of defeat and then asking life for victory. But the man who understands the law of inner construction does something different. He does not go to sleep carelessly. He enters the night deliberately. He does not end the day as a drifter. He ends it as a builder. And if you are ready, that is what you are about to become. For the next 7 nights, you are not merely going to rest. You are entering a hidden season of internal reconstruction. You are stepping into a private workshop where the old identity begins to lose its authority and the new identity begins to take root. You are not chasing motivation. You are not seeking surface emotion. You are not trying to become temporarily inspired. You are giving the deeper mind a new law to live by. But before you begin, there is one command that must be obeyed. Tell no one. Speak of it to no one. Announce it to no one. Explain it to no one. Seek approval from no one. Keep your progress private. Keep your growth sacred. Keep your becoming hidden until it is strong enough to stand in the open air without being weakened by the breath of doubt. This is one of the oldest laws of power. The seed grows best while concealed. A wise farmer does not dig up the ground every morning to see whether life has begun. He plants, he covers, he waters, and he waits. He understands that exposure too early can kill what faith has barely begun to form. So it is with your transformation. The world has never been kind to fragile beginnings. Men will applaud visible success, but they often endanger invisible growth. When you reveal your purpose too soon, you expose it to curiosity, judgment, envy, skepticism, and careless speech. Even those who love you may project their own fears upon what you are trying to become. They may not intend to weaken you, but their uncertainty can disturb the soil. That is why the great changes begin in secrecy. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is protection. Silence is not passivity. Silence is containment. Silence is not fear. Silence is strength under discipline. A man who speaks too soon leaks power. A man who withholds until the work is complete multiplies it. There is energy in compressed conviction. The dream that is continually explained loses heat. The purpose that is quietly guarded gains force. A furnace that is opened every few minutes cannot maintain temperature. So it is with the soul. Open the chamber of your becoming too often, and the fire cools. Guard it, and it grows hot enough to change your life. You may ask yourself, why does secrecy matter so much? Because when a desire is still immature, it is vulnerable. At first, a new self-image is only a whisper. It is not yet habit. It is not yet natural. It is not yet your default state. It must be repeated, fed, defended, and emotionally impressed until the subconscious accepts it as law. Until that happens, the old identity will try to return. The old fears will speak again. The old patterns will seek reinforcement. And the opinions of others can give them strength. So keep the gate closed. Do not speak of your growth while it is still taking root. Do not describe your new life while the foundation is still wet. Do not seek witnesses for a miracle that is still being formed. The strongest men in history have often built in secret. Before the world ever saw their results, there were long periods of invisibility, loneliness, restraint, and inner rehearsal. The crowd saw the arrival. It never saw the construction. It saw the fruit. It never saw the root. It saw the voice, the poise, the fortune, the influence, the calm authority. It did not see the years of hidden discipline that made those things possible. And so it must be with you. For 7 nights, you are going to do something most men never do. You are going to cooperate with your subconscious rather than fight it. You are going to give it instruction instead of confusion. You are going to replace the old emotional diet of fear and repetition with a new diet of certainty, faith, self-command, gratitude, and identity. Notice this carefully, the subconscious does not respond most powerfully to force. It responds most powerfully to repetition impressed with emotion. It absorbs what is felt again and again. It believes what is rehearsed inwardly. It becomes loyal to what is repeated with conviction. It does not ask whether the pattern is serving you well. It simply reproduces what it has been taught. If fear has been repeated, it reproduces fear. If hesitation has been repeated, it reproduces hesitation. If shame has been repeated, it reproduces shame. If struggle has been repeated, it reproduces struggle. But if faith is repeated, it begins to reproduce faith. If calm authority is repeated, it begins to reproduce calm authority. If abundance is repeated, it begins to prepare for abundance. If a new identity is emotionally rehearsed night after night, the subconscious begins to reshape the man to match that image. This is why these nights matter. A month of public promises cannot equal 7 nights of deep internal impression. Many men try to change themselves while awake and fail because they are speaking only to the surface mind. But the deeper mind, the one that governs reaction, instinct, emotional setpoint, and behavioral consistency, is still obeying yesterday. You must go deeper than talk. You must go deeper than desire. You must impress the inner pattern. And that begins with identity. Do not merely think about what you want to have. Think about who you must become. This is where most men go wrong. They imagine success as an event, a possession, a reward, a visible outcome. But success is first a self-concept. Before a man can hold prosperity, he must hold the consciousness of prosperity. Before he can lead, he must accept inwardly that he is a leader. Before he can walk in peace, he must stop identifying with conflict. Before he can carry influence, he must stop worshipping the opinions of others. Your life will not permanently rise above your accepted identity. If the subconscious still sees you as the man who hesitates, you will hesitate even while trying not to. If it sees you as the man who must explain himself, you will explain yourself even when silence would be more powerful. If it sees you as the man who expects disappointment, you will unconsciously prepare for disappointment even in moments of opportunity. So tonight, and every night that follows, you must begin to see a different man. See him clearly. See the version of yourself who no longer asks for permission to rise. See the version of yourself who does not tremble at the thought of being misunderstood. See the version of yourself who moves with order, who speaks with control, who acts with certainty, who keeps his word to himself, who no longer leaks energy through complaint, who no longer seeks constant reassurance, who no longer rehearses defeat. See him standing tall in the privacy of his own mind before the world ever recognizes him in public. Do not admire him as if he is someone separate from you. Identify with him. Wear him inwardly. Let the subconscious begin to accept him as your true self. The deeper mind responds to identity faster than it responds to ambition. A goal says, I want to reach something. Identity says, this is who I am. The subconscious is most obedient when it receives commands in the language of being. So do not spend these nights begging life for results. Spend them accepting the self from which those results naturally flow. Say inwardly, not as empty poetry, but as law. I am becoming the man my future requires. My silence is not weakness, it is strength under command. My mind is accepting a new pattern. My subconscious is obeying a higher image. What is forming within me will soon become visible without. Feel the weight of those words. Let them descend beneath thought. The subconscious does not respond to clever phrasing. It responds to emotional certainty. It responds to felt truth. If you repeat a sentence without belief, it remains a sentence. But if you repeat it with reverence, longing, expectancy, and inward authority, it becomes an instruction. This is why gratitude is so powerful. Gratitude tells the subconscious that the good is not distant. Gratitude tells your nervous system to relax into receiving rather than brace for disappointment. Gratitude removes the emotional signal of scarcity and replaces it with the signal of expectancy. A man who feels grateful before the evidence arrives is already cooperating with law. He is telling his deeper mind, prepare the ground. The harvest is coming. So before sleep, do not only picture the man you are becoming. Feel gratitude for him. Feel grateful that strength is returning. Feel grateful that disorder is leaving. Feel grateful that your inner atmosphere is changing. Feel grateful that the old self no longer owns the future. Feel grateful that these silent nights are doing invisible work beyond what the conscious mind can measure. Do not ask, is anything happening? That is the language of doubt. Instead say, everything is happening beneath the surface. That is the language of faith. The seed does not appear dead because nothing is occurring. It appears still because life is working underground. Roots do not announce themselves. They deepen in private. The most important phase of growth often looks like nothing to the impatient eye. Yet it is precisely in that unseen stage that strength is being established. What rises before it roots will not endure. What roots before it rises cannot easily be shaken. You must become patient enough to trust the underground. In the coming days, you may be tempted to measure progress by outer signs. Resist that urge. Do not constantly inspect yourself for evidence. Do not become anxious if the transformation is not immediately dramatic. The subconscious often changes the atmosphere before it changes the circumstance. First your inner speech shifts. Then your emotional response changes. Then your decisions become cleaner. Then your posture changes. Then your tolerance for chaos decreases. Then your standards rise. Then your actions change. Then life begins to mirror the new order. Transformation rarely announces the exact moment it begins. It reveals itself gradually, then suddenly. You may wake one morning and realize that a familiar fear no longer has the same grip. You may notice that you are speaking more slowly, moving more deliberately, reacting less impulsively. You may realize that your mind is no longer eager to explain itself to those who do not understand. You may find that you are less impressed by noise and more drawn to stillness. These are signs. They are evidence that the inner law is taking hold. Again, tell no one. There is power in refusing to expose what is still forming. There is dignity in letting results mature before they are mentioned. There is freedom in no longer needing the world to clap while the work is still unfinished. Men who require immediate recognition often sacrifice lasting achievement. They trade the future for the pleasure of being noticed in the present. But the wise man is willing to be underestimated for a season if it means becoming undeniable later. Contain yourself. Contain your excitement. Contain your plans. Contain your visions. Contain your early victories. Contain the urge to prove that something is happening. Pressure creates force. Contained conviction becomes magnetism. The man who learns to hold his fire becomes powerful in ways the world cannot explain. There will be something in his eyes, something in his pace, something in his silence that others will feel before they understand. They will call it presence. They will call it confidence. They will call it mystery. But you will know what it is. It is withheld energy. It is compressed identity. It is inward alignment. This law governs not only dreams, but speech itself. Speak less. Mean more. Speak later. Build first. Explain little. Demonstrate much. Many lives are weakened not by lack of desire, but by too much unnecessary speech. Every aim announced before its time becomes vulnerable to interference. Every plan explained in search of validation gives away part of its power. A man who must constantly describe what he is becoming is often less committed to becoming it than he believes. The deepest conviction does not advertise. It works. And there is another law you must understand if these 7 nights are to change you fully. You do not defeat the old self by fighting it endlessly. You replace it. This is one of the great secrets of transformation. What is resisted often persists because attention itself feeds it. If you lie in bed every night wrestling with fear, naming fear, condemning fear, and asking why fear is there, you are still holding fear in the center of the mind. The subconscious hears repetition, not your intention to be free from it. So stop feeding the old pattern through struggle. Replace it through contrast. If the old thought says, I am behind, replace it with, my season is unfolding in perfect order. If it says, I always fail, replace it with, I am becoming consistent, steady, and exact. If it says, nothing changes for me, replace it with, my inner world is changing, and my outer life must follow. If it says, I am not enough, replace it with, I am under construction by a higher law, and I accept the greater self now rising within me. Darkness is not removed by argument. It is removed by light. Weeds are not destroyed by shouting at them. They are crowded out by stronger growth. So it is with the subconscious. Replace weakness with strength. Replace complaint with gratitude. Replace confusion with order. Replace panic with breath. Replace self-contempt with self-command. Quiet replacement is more powerful than noisy resistance. At first, the old voice may return often. Let it. Do not panic. Do not interpret its return as failure. Old patterns echo after the source has been cut off. Continue the replacement. Continue the repetition. Continue feeding only what you wish to grow. The subconscious learns by emotional consistency. In time, the new path becomes easier, the old path weaker. What once felt unnatural will begin to feel normal. What once required effort will begin to happen automatically. This is how identity is rewritten. Each night you are laying a new road. At first it is only a narrow trail through wilderness. Then repetition widens it. Then belief paves it. Then emotion reinforces it. Then habit begins to travel that way without being forced. Eventually, the old road falls into disuse, and the new one becomes the natural route of the mind. This is why repetition matters. Not because you are trying to convince life, but because you are teaching the subconscious a new familiarity. What is familiar becomes believable. What is believable becomes expected. What is expected begins to shape behavior. What shapes behavior eventually shapes destiny. You must also understand the role of stillness. Silence is not useful only because it protects your growth from others. It is useful because it allows you to hear what noise has been preventing. A man who never becomes quiet cannot receive deeper guidance. His own mental chatter drowns out the subtler currents of insight. But the one who enters silence regularly begins to notice something extraordinary. Clarity comes. Not all at once, not always dramatically, but often as a calm knowing, a sudden solution, a shift in perspective, a feeling about what must be done next. Call it intuition. Call it inner wisdom. Call it the whisper of infinite intelligence. Whatever name you choose, it arrives most clearly when the inner room has been emptied of noise. So as these nights continue, do not be surprised if ideas appear. Do not be surprised if a next step becomes obvious. Do not be surprised if you awaken with a stronger sense of direction. The subconscious is not only storing commands, it is organizing patterns, connecting impressions, and making available the guidance that agitation could not hear. When that guidance comes, honor it. But do not rush to talk about it. Write it down if you must. Act upon it if it is clear. Give thanks for it. But protect it. Not every insight is meant for conversation. Some are meant for implementation. This too is part of your silent covenant.